Welcome to the funnel. My name is John Shea, and I'm the president of Alignment Group. This is episode 188 of the funnel, 5 best practices for adding a mentor program to your sales onboarding process. Just a reminder, head on over to alignment-group.com/the funnel and subscribe, and we'll send you the show notes. Okay, let's get started. Today, we're going to talk about communication, goals, planning your onboarding mentoring program, feedback, and the end. I wanted to start with communication because I think that what I'm about to say is foundational to a mentor program working. Obviously, you start with sales, right? The sales team, communicating to the sales team. But I think it's more than that. It's more than just saying, hey, we're building a mentor program. It's making sure that the sales team knows this is going to happen, obviously, the importance of it, and what the end goals are. And we'll get to goals, right? Because I talked about that. But I think communicating to them how this is going to work is just as critical as implementing it, because you need their support. Salespeople look to other salespeople for feedback and information, and culturally, if they see that the team is buying into it, then the mentor and the sales rep that's being mentored will buy into it. It's very important to position it properly and message it properly to the sales team. So you want to get any previous history out of the way. If they've had negative experiences in the past with this, maybe at another company. If they have any thoughts on maybe implementing it and how it would work, I think getting their feedback is important. That kind of communication is critical. So once you launch the program, everybody's on the same page. Additionally, you want each department to know that you're building this program, right? This happens a lot, especially with sales. You will implement something, and then a new sales rep or somebody from the sales department will be talking to someone in the company in another area of the company and mention something, and the response will be, I had no idea, or we're always the last to know, that sort of thing. So I think it's important for all of the departments to know the investment you're making, not only in your onboarding program, but to build a mentor program to help sales reps transition into your company properly. That's why it's important, right? So we talk about why. Well, it's a transition period. They start with you as the manager. They're going through this pretty comprehensive onboarding program. Once they finish the onboarding program, it's basically coaching and development for growth, and that's really good stuff. But it's not as intense. And I think the transition coming through the onboarding into the coaching world with the manager, the mentor fits nicely in the middle of that. You're going to say, well, you don't coach during the onboarding? Yes, you do. It's a little different. A lot of teaching and development in product, the company, sales process, sales methodology. When you get into the true coaching, the meat of the coaching, that is focused pretty much deal specific, right? And and I say deal specific, we've identified the areas they need help. We're working with them in deals, and we're stressing the areas and helping and coaching in the areas that we've identified, right? So, it's a little bit different. That's why it's important to have that mentor help with that transition period. And then finally, I think the communication is the support that you're going to need. That every department, every sales rep, everyone needs to support the mentoring program. Why? Because that feedback is important. Because they can get a positive view of what you're bringing to the table. So if they sit down and they have lunch with a couple of folks from another department, or they go out to lunch with a couple of sales reps, and it's not their mentor, and they start talking about the program and people are slamming it, that's not good. So you want that support. You want them to feel good that they're involved in something that's meaningful. Let's talk about goals for a few minutes, because I think, like everything else we've done and talked about from onboarding to hiring to building programs, you have to understand your goals. You need to know what the expectations are, right? What outcome are we looking for? We don't want the just, hey, this is your mentor, Bob or Sally. Just follow them around for a couple of days, right? So I would say that you need to lay out the goals. What are the expectations? What are the outcomes I'm looking for in this program? So if I'm thinking about this the way I would, it's transition, helping that person transition into the company and get not only the classroom feedback, okay, of sitting with marketing or sitting with you in a sales training class or developing the understanding of the methodology or the sales process. It's getting in the car and doing some field rides, or if you're an in-house rep, inbound rep, sitting there with them and watching them apply it on their daily routine and asking questions and getting feedback. And if they're stuck on something in their training, they have somebody to go to and say, hey, listen, I don't understand this. What's your recommendation? So it's not always the manager, right? So the goal really is the outcome. What am I looking for here? What's my expectation? And I'm going to break that into two parts. One is the mentor. What do I expect from the mentor? Right? What's their role in this? What's the description for them? Their responsibilities, their procedures, their expectations. What do we want the mentor to do? We need to vet that out, right? Not everyone can be a mentor. And a mentor, it comes with a heavy burden, right? They have to be successful. They also have to have the skill to teach and they have to have the desire to want to do this. The flip side of that is the sales rep. What's the expectation of the sales rep with the mentor? What's the role and responsibility and outcome you're looking for with the rep? You need to put all that in writing. This is how we expect you to interact with your mentor. This is how it's supposed to be. This is your responsibility, your role in this relationship. And you need to stress to both of them, this is a career development opportunity. For the mentor, maybe they just like to do it. Let's put that aside for a second. Okay, we say that, and some people just like to do it. That's all they want to do. They want to continue in their role in their territory, and that's what they like. Others, it could be at some point in their career they want to manage. This is a great step in that direction. There's none of the burden or responsibility of numbers and outcomes and quotas. It's the teaching aspect of management. Quite frankly, it's the most important part of management. You want to get good managers in place, make them mentors. Teach them how to be mentors. And it's a natural move into the management role. So you need to stress the fact that this is career development for both. Well, I'm new with the company. What do you mean it's career development? It's going to help you transition into our company, into our culture, a lot faster than you would on your own. Your opportunity to realize accelerated growth and higher revenue, higher sales in a shorter amount of time is really important to your career development here. We want to see you progress. And this is the first step in that process of progression. Next is the planning portion of the mentor development program. What I mean by planning is building out the documentation, building out the playbook, if you will, the mentor playbook and the sales rep playbook. And I think having that in front of a mentor will help them transition into becoming a mentor, right? So they have a guide that helps them. They have access to the sales reps onboarding program. They know what they're doing any given day of the week. They have their specific time that they're assigned to work with the sales rep. And keep in mind, you're managing the time here. It's just not a free for all, right? They have to they have to work together to create a schedule, okay, with the manager. That's what I'm trying to say. Is the mentor doesn't, it's just not a free flow. You can't just call them anytime. There's a schedule for this. And of course there's, hey, give me a call if you have a problem or send me an email if you need to catch up. It's not that strict. You can't call me because today's Wednesday. but it can't be an everyday, all day thing, right? So the mentor playbook is a guide on teaching, a guide on helping the sales rep, a guide that matches the onboarding training, so they have something in front of them, they can see the progression. The sales rep playbook, which just goes right into with the onboarding playbook. It really kind of explains the roles and responsibilities and their part in the mentor and being mentored and what the expectations are. Go back to the expectations. You want to explain it, but you want it in the playbook. You want them to know how to do this. Now, the next part I talk about is assessing. And what I mean by that is the feedback portion. Okay, and that's coming next. I'm going to talk about feedback, but I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. The assessing is really just the mentor's role in this, and it's in the playbook, right? But the role here is to figure out how they're progressing beyond just the onboarding and what they're getting from, let's say they go with marketing and they get the messaging and the marketing signs off on it. Well, the mentor's job is really to push back against that, assess that. Do they have the skill sets? Are they matching what we want them to match at this point in their career? Are they missing pieces? What needs to be filled in? Okay, they're going through this program. Everything's great. You're doing the sales training, but there's some missing pieces here on the sales side of it. Like they're not quite getting how we qualify. I'm just kind of making that up. Okay, so their role is to observe the behavior, listen to the questions, and provide next steps in the process. So think about the planning. Let me go back and start. So there's a mentor playbook, a sales rep playbook. There's assessing. So there's a place there for the mentor to assess the skills and capabilities of that trainee as they're coming through the process and provide information on the next steps, things that they should be working on in addition to what they're doing in the onboarding process. Okay, feedback. I just talked about that, right? I want to kind of separate the two. Assessing their skill sets, putting notes down, guiding them towards things that they need to work on is really important. But when I talk about feedback, I'm talking about feedback in multiple ways. First, the mentor to the rep, the mentor to the manager. Honest assessment, honest feedback to the manager on how the rep's progressing. It's important to provide that feedback. To be clear, the sales rep knows that. They should know that you've explained that to them at the beginning, that the mentor is going to be providing feedback to the manager and feedback to you on how they're progressing. That feedback is critical to what's going to come in the coaching phase as they come out of onboarding and into coaching, and critical to any changes or adjustments that are going to be made in the onboarding process, right? If they're just not getting something, then you might want to make an adjustment. We want them to follow the playbook. We want them to follow the roles and responsibilities, but we have to make adjustments if we need to. So the feedback provision in this is really designed for the mentor to give the rep and the manager, and for the sales rep to say, hey, this is working and this is not working with my mentor, to the mentor, and feedback to the manager. Here's what I'm seeing. Here's what's working. Because you get a mentor and everything's great. You have it all set up and you built the program, and then the mentor disappears on you. That's a problem. Sales rep needs to provide feedback on that. Maybe it's a great positive experience, and it should be, right? That's what we're aiming for here. We want that feedback too. We want them to know that it's an open door. There's an opportunity there to provide good information. So now I want to talk about the end, because there is an end to the process. Right? Mentoring doesn't go on forever. It is not a substitute for training. It is not a substitute for coaching. It is part of the onboarding process that might continue slightly beyond the onboarding process. It's that transitional period, right? You're bringing them through onboarding. They're getting all the training. They're getting the mentoring help. It's a team approach. They come out of the onboarding. The mentor sticks around for a little while longer as the manager begins to kind of move into the heavy coaching phase. And we'll talk about that in future podcasts. This is a planned approach. It's part of the planning process, a beginning, a middle, and an end. Okay? We want to know whether this has been a success or failure, and we provide feedback on that. We make adjustments for the next time. This is a formal process. It's part of the program. And at the end of that, we sit down and we discuss the successes. And quite frankly, we discuss the failures. But it's not an ongoing thing forever. The goal is to train them, get them up and running as quickly as possible, and move them into the coaching phase while they're producing revenue for you. Now, I will say this, that the mentoring program is designed, obviously, to help, right? I've said that. But it's not a friendship type thing. And I'll talk about that in future podcasts. But just keep in mind that this is a professional relationship. And the objective here is to move on to the next thing. So we want everyone coming out of this feeling good. The mentor, the sales rep. And at the end of it, they become peers to some degree. So what have you done at the end of this? And what have you done from the beginning, the middle, and the end? You've set the stage for future coaching. There's not enough coaching going on out there. Everyone thinks that if I hit my number, my boss leaves me alone. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. Why would you want that? Would you accept that anywhere else in your life? Would you accept that from your accountant? No additional learning. I learned what I learned in college. I have my CPA. I don't need any more. Well, the tax code's kind of changed a little bit since then. Or your attorney. Or your doctor. You wouldn't accept that from anyone else. Teachers in school. You wouldn't accept that. Don't accept it here. Now, it's a lot easier to start that process when you hire somebody, bring them into the onboarding, walk them through the training and the development, begin the coaching as a manager, bring in the mentor. The mentor does some coaching and development. It's a natural progression to ongoing coaching and development for that rep beyond the onboarding. Makes it an easier transition than going back to somebody that's been with you for 15 years and say, hey, I'm going to start coaching you now. It doesn't work out as well. So you go through the interview process and you talk about that, right? You talk about, at some point, as you talk about the job, how you manage and how you coach and what the philosophy is. So they know that coming in. Then they get a real taste of it in the onboarding program and through the mentor program. So it's a natural progression to move into it after they've come through that process. And what you're going to find is not only do they ramp up faster, right, because you've put them through an onboarding program and they have a lot higher success rate, but you have people that will get better and better and better as the years go on, and you will close more deals. And they're deal-centric. So hopefully that helps you understand why it's important to build a mentor program, how to get started with the mentor program. Obviously, in a 15, 20-minute podcast, I can't give you every detail for building it, but this is sort of the fundamental way to build a mentoring program. As always, you can find us at alignment-group.com/thefunnel. We're on Facebook, Twitter @ShayJohnR, LinkedIn, Google+. You can email me, jshay@alignment-group.com. Stop by the website. We have all kinds of good stuff beyond the podcast. We have a blog that comes out twice a week. Really try to write companion pieces to what we're doing here on the podcast. And there's all kinds of good stuff to download for your sales. Management initiatives, hiring, developing, training, et cetera, et cetera. As always, thank you for subscribing and keep filling the funnel.